we want to talk about containers again, but this time grouping and copying containers. And this is important because sometimes you'll need to simply copy containers or many containers all at once, and or you'll definitely need to organize your containers within your scene tree, because as you can see when we open up this example scene here, that we get a lot of containers sometimes within our scenes. So as you can see, I click through these little black triangles here and I can reveal the subcontainers underneath these other containers. So if we close this scene here and jump back into an empty scene and we just drag this little group button down here, what we'll do is go into our built-ins, and as you know, when you drag a container down into the scene tree like this, you get your three icons: your eyeball, your lock and key icon, and your transformation axis icon, plus the little icon, whichever geometry you're using. Now, if we wanted to create a parent-child relationship with our groups or a sub-container, what you can use are these little black bracket systems. So we click and drag on our sphere container here, and I'm going to move it so our little bracket system here is gray and white and it's indented. And once it's like that, we can just slide it right into that group, and now you can see that we have a sub-container or a parent-child relationship in our groups. If we wanted to copy this container, we can just hold down Control, click and drag, and now we have two containers. So if I want to separate these, we can, and now we can use this parent container or parent group to rotate this and even make changes. So if we wanted to drag a material on this topmost group, it will affect both of them. And if we come into our top group or top container and adjust the transformation properties here, we could scale it, position it, rotate it, and you can see that it will affect both containers here. So this is how you make a parent-child relationship or a sub-container of other containers. Now, if you needed to copy containers, as we mentioned, you could click and drag, and once your container is out here, you can simply just click your right mouse button now and start creating some copies. If we want to select all of these containers, two ways we can do that. Highlight the first one, you could hold down Control and click them individually, and or you click the first one and then hold down Shift and they all will be selected. Now, if you wanted to group all of these together, what you could do is just hit this little group button up here. We could do it that way. And if we wanted to group it another way, you could just drag a group down into here following your little bracket system, and then we could manually slide that other group into the topmost group. Again, at any time, if you need to rename it, you just double click on a group and you can rename it. If you don't want to hit enter yet, you can just hit your down arrow key and then start renaming these containers that way as well. Or just click down or up arrow key once you have your container context menu highlighted. Now, lastly, if you right click on a container, you'll get an option to merge a container. So we could click on this merge container, and it only works with a topmost container. So in one of our topmost containers here, we could right click on it and we could say merge container, and now this container merges. And what we can do with that is go into our server, into our G or geometry button, select a folder, and just drag that group up into there. And this creates a group. We could give it a name, and then we could drag it down into the scene tree. You could right click on it and you could say split container, and it reveals all the containers again. Now again, if you right click on a container and click on it, you could also create a subcontainer in there as well. So it's another way of creating a container and instead of dragging it around manually. So grouping and renaming containers is going to be very important, especially once you start to get into many containers within your scene tree.